I finally stopped running now. With you I found my peace somehow. Let go of every thought that was holding me back. Yeah.
Good afternoon, YouTube. I know I can't sing. Don't y'all come for me. I am good and late. Listen, my morning, y'all know stuff just happens. Stuff just happens. I literally woke up about 2 minutes before I had to clock in for work. And then my boss tried it. You know what? People's true colors come out. And I'll just leave it like that because I'm going to make an actual video, a separate video. But some true colors are coming out at my job. True colors. So yeah, my supervisor tried it this morning. So I'm just getting here. But thank God I'm here. I'm glad you're here. We thank God for life on today. Let's go and get into this. Romans chapter 11. Stretch, girl. All right, guys. Romans chapter 11 in the Living Bible. I ask then, has God rejected and deserted his people, the Jews? Oh, no, not at all. Remember that I myself am a Jew, a descendant of Abraham and a member of Benjamin's family. No, God has not discarded his own people whom he chose from the very beginning. Y'all, I feel like I sound like those people from the Bible app. Let me get myself together. Renisha, read like yourself. Don't do that. Do you remember what the scriptures say about this? Elijah the prophet was complaining to God about the Jews, telling God how they had killed the prophets and torn down God's altars. Elijah claimed that he was the only one left in all the land who still loved God, and now they were trying to kill him too. You know what? Elijah is one of my favorite people from the Bible, right? He definitely is. But Elijah was arrogant. He had some arrogance. This shows you. But I feel like every prophet has some level of arrogance in their life, on some level. Some level of arrogance. Where's the lie? Okay. Verse number 4. And do you remember how God replied? God said, no, you are not the only one left. I have 7,000 others besides you who still love me and have not bowed down to idols. Basically, he was saying, Elijah, get over yourself. Really? It is the same today. Not all the Jews have turned away from God. There are a few being saved as a result of God's kindness in choosing them. And if it is by God's kindness, then it is not by their being good enough. For in that case, the free gift will no longer be free. It isn't free when it is earned. So this is the situation. Most of the Jews have not found the favor of God they are looking for. A few have, the ones God has picked out, but the eyes of the others have been blinded. This is what our scriptures refer to when they say that God has put them to sleep, shutting their eyes and ears so that they do not understand what we are talking about when we tell them of Christ. And so it is to this very day. King David spoke of this same thing when he said, let their good food and other blessings trap them into thinking all is well between themselves and God. Let these good things boomerang on them and fall back upon their heads to justly crush them. Let their eyes be dim, he said, so that they cannot see, and let them walk bent back forever with a heavy load. Does this mean that God has rejected his Jewish people forever? Of course not. His purpose was to make his salvation available to the Gentiles, and then the Jews would be jealous and begin to want God's salvation for themselves. Now, if the whole world became rich as a result of God's offer of salvation, when the Jews stumbled over it and turned it down, think how much greater a blessing the world will share in later on when the Jews too come to Christ. As you know, sorry, y'all, just got an email from my supervisor. Sorry, guys, let me back up. Okay, let me go back to 12. Now, if the whole world became rich as a result of God's offer of salvation, when the Jews stumbled over it and turned it down, think how much greater a blessing the world will share in later on when the Jews too come to Christ. As you know, God has appointed me as a special messenger to the Gentiles. I lay great stress on this and remind the Jews about it as often as I can, so that if possible, I can make them want what you Gentiles have, and in that way save some of them. And how wonderful it will be when they become Christians. When God turned away from them, it meant that he turned to the rest of the world to offer his salvation. And now it is even more wonderful when the Jews came to Christ. It will be like dead people coming back to life. And since Abraham and the prophets are God's people, their children will be too. For if the roots of the tree are holy, the branches will be too. But some of these branches from Abraham's tree, some of the Jews, have been broken off, and you, Gentiles, who were branches from, we might say, a wild olive tree, were grafted in. So now you too receive the blessing God has promised Abraham and his children, sharing in God's rich nourishment of his own special olive tree. But you must be careful not to brag about being put in to replace the branches that were broken off. Remember that you are important only because you are now a part of God's tree. You are just a branch, not a root. Well, you may be saying, those branches were broken off to make room for me, so I must be pretty good. Watch out. Remember that those branches, the Jews, were broken off because they didn't believe God, and you are there only because you do. Do not be proud. Be humble and grateful and careful, okay? For if God did not spare the branches he put there in the first place, he won't spare you either. Notice how God is both kind and severe. He is very hard on those who disobey, but very good to you if you continue to love and trust him. But if you don't, you too will be cut off. Period, poo. On the other hand, if the Jews leave their unbelief behind them and come back to God, God will graft them back into the tree again. He has the power to do it. For if God was willing to take you who were so far away from being For if God was willing to take you who were so far away from him, being part of the wild olive tree, and now every time I see olive oil, I'm going to think about a wild olive tree, Lord, and graft you into his own good tree, a very usual thing to do. Don't you see that he will be far more ready to put the Jews back again who were there in the first place? I want you to know about this truth from God, dear brothers, so that you will not feel proud and start bragging. Yes, it is true that some of the Jews have set themselves against the gospel now, but this will only last until all of you Gentiles have come to Christ, those of you who will. And then all Israel will be saved. Do you remember what the prophet said about this? There shall come out of Zion a deliverer, and he shall turn the Jews from all ungodliness. At that time, I will take away their sins just as I promised. Not many of the Jews are enemies of the gospel. They hate it. But this has been a benefit to you, for it has resulted in God's giving his gifts to you Gentiles. Yet the Jews are still beloved of God because of his promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For God's gifts and his call can never be withdrawn. He will never go back on his promises. Once you were rebels against God, but when the Jews refused his gifts, God made you merciful. Let me try this again. Once you were rebels against God, but when the Jews refused his gifts, God was merciful to you instead. And now the Jews are the rebels, but someday they too will share in God's mercy upon you. For God has given them all up to sin so that he could have mercy upon all alike. Oh, what a wonderful God we have. I was about to start singing. I'm not gonna sing. I can't sing. How great are his wisdom and knowledge and riches. How impossible it is for us to understand his decisions and methods. For who among us can know the mind of the Lord? Who knows enough to be his counselor and guide? And who could ever offer to the Lord enough to induce him to act? My God, that is good. Jesus, who could ever offer to the Lord enough to induce him to act? For all of you self-righteous people. All right. For everything comes from God alone. Everything lives by his power, and everything is for his glory. To him be glory evermore. Amen. That's Romans 11. And I'm not going to edit out the mistakes because I need y'all to know that, listen, Christians are human. And it was so powerful because I was on a conference call maybe a little over a month ago, and somebody, a sister prophesied to me, and she said, Renisha, you're going to show us it's okay to be human. Mind you, this is a prayer I was literally praying. This was my first time ever talking to this person. I was literally praying that prayer earlier that day as it related to my YouTube channel. So yeah, Romans 11, y'all. I'm about to go upload this. And while it's uploading, I'm going to be doing the prayer.